and we have about 20 or so minutes to discuss today. And what we're going to do is, first of all, just do some reactions to, actually what we're going to do first is we're going to do a poll. So everybody can wake up and do a poll. So we're going to launch this poll, and what it's asking you is to pick the source where you get your information the most, and you only get to choose one. And the people who are co-hosts and hosts don't get to vote. So go ahead and on yours, go ahead and choose which one you use the most to get yours. For example, I'm one of those combination guys, but anyway. And if everybody's gotten a chance to do the poll, I'm going to give you another second here. And let's see, we've got, yeah, that looks good. So how about we go ahead and end it, and we can look at our results and see where we're at. So it looks like 57% of those of us who are here do a combination, and the next highest percentage is public television, followed by digital media. So that's really helpful to know, and make sure everybody can see that. So so we already use a combination of ways to get to stuff, which is really good. And as we're going to learn in the lessons going forward, and we're also going to talk about today, we have to use a combination of ways to also figure out how to check on that information. So if you want to go ahead and make a comment or ask a question, you can raise your hand, and there's a way to raise your hand using you click on reactions. It's on the bottom menu, and it's usually at the far right side on the bottom menu. And if you click on that and say raise your hand, you can do that. And if you can't find that, make sure your camera's on and wave your hand really a lot, and I will try and find you. So is anybody, what you thought of the video? John Green, what's happened? Okay, no questions or comments. Okay, so why don't we go to the next screen? Charles, what? Oh, go ahead, Rebecca. Sorry, I missed you. You have to unmute yourself.
Gotcha. I enjoyed the video very much. Thank you. I'm from Georgia, so don't laugh at my accent. And I've always heard that there's the rule of 3 as far as verifying information.
I mean, having 2 sources, 3 sources to back it up.
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's 2 or 3 now. It was 3 when I went to journalism class, which was like, several generations ago. So yeah, but there have to be other sources. And yeah. And the other thing that was interesting on this particular video is he talked about the pluses and minuses of the internet. But one of the really key issues is this one statement, which is the quality of our information directly shapes the quality of our decisions. And the quality of our decisions, of course, shape the quality of our shared experience as humans, which is the reason to have this class and to learn this information. So some of the positive things about the internet are things that we've experienced through the pandemic. And one of those would be, that we're able to actually meet like this. So we have someone from Georgia, we have people from all around the state here. So that's one of the things that is one of those things. Susan, go ahead.
So one of the things, now I'm going to be honest here, I'm a crash course junkie. I usually watch all of their stuff. But the thing that got me as he was talking was that people think the internet is a great leveler. But as we've seen this last year, if you don't have internet, you don't have it. That leveler is not there. I'm a high school teacher with students who, my school district has been struggling all year to get hotspots to students so that they can join remote learning. So one of the things I think that was true in 2017 and is even more true 4 years later is internet needs to now be a public utility.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any comments in general about that? Okay, so one of the next things that we have to talk about is that if there's these good things, there are things that we don't want to have happen, which misinformation and disinformation, hate speech and propaganda. So the difference between today and say when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s is that information was controlled by a smaller number of people. And prior to television, a smaller number of people controlled it. And prior to radio, that was also true prior to the telegraph. So this is the next expansion of communication and access to information. The difference between the internet and those previous iterations is how quickly it can exponentially get out there. So if you had a telegraph and you had to have a telegraph machine in order to make it. So even with a telegraph, that wasn't very many. If you had to use letters and newspapers that went by mail, that was even slower. Today, something can get out there today in 1 minute, and in an hour, it can be all over the world. And so that's the reason sharing misinformation and disinformation can be so difficult. One of the points that I thought was really interesting in the video and something to talk about is, and something to ask you about. So John Green is at least a generation younger than I am. So he grew up in the 80s and the 90s. I grew up in I was born in the 50s. So some of us may be younger, some of us may be older. So he's more used to using all of the apps that he was rattling off at the beginning than I am. And but many people are used to using the apps. The apps are on our phone or they're on the computer, but we don't know how to evaluate the information of a particular source. And so that would be the next slide, which is to in the surveys that they did of the college students and the high school students and the history professors and the middle school students, when they looked at websites, and we're going to see this more in episode 2, they evaluated it on how it looks, whether they've used that particular website before, and who recommended it. So if you happen to be sitting in your bubble and all the people who agree with you recommend a particular site, well, if that site provides misinformation and you don't check it and you pass that information on, then that's the biggest thing, is that what we want to do is that anytime that I post anything on social media, I become a digital publisher. And as was said earlier, if I haven't done my checking, if I haven't checked 2 or 3 sources, then I could be posting misinformation or disinformation, not intentionally, but just because I thought it was interesting. And so that's what we want to stop doing. And that's how we are going to go ahead and do that. And I know that there's some lively things happening on chat, which is one of the things that's happened is that, as Charlie pointed out, social media algorithms can keep you in a bubble. And that's a really good thing to understand. And we are going to talk, I think it's in episode 8 or 9, about social media platforms and algorithms.